Easy English Stories, Chasing the American Dream. Chapter 1. A New Beginning. Emily stepped off the plane, gripping the handle of her small suitcase tightly. The air in New York felt different, charged with excitement and uncertainty. She had dreamed of this moment for years, but now that she was here, everything felt overwhelming. The airport was massive, filled with people rushing in every direction. Announcements echoed overhead, and conversations in English surrounded her. Though she had studied the language back home, understanding real conversations was much harder than she expected. Taking a deep breath, she followed the signs toward the exit. Outside, the city buzzed with honking taxis and hurried footsteps. Emily clutched the address of her cousin's apartment, her temporary home, until she could find her own place. She had taken the first step toward her American dream, but she knew the real challenge was just beginning. Chapter 2. The Job Search Struggle. Emily spent the next several days immersed in the daunting world of online job searches. Each morning, she sat at her small desk in her cousin's apartment, her laptop open and a steaming cup of coffee in hand. The job boards and company websites were filled with endless listings, but each one seemed to present another challenge. Many required experience she didn't have. Others stated, "Must be fluent in English." These words echoed in her mind, deepening her doubts. Determined not to give up, Emily crafted a polished resume and cover letter. She carefully tailored each application, hoping one would lead to an opportunity. However, as days turned into weeks, her email inbox remained empty. No responses came, and the silence made her question her qualifications. One afternoon, feeling discouraged, Emily stumbled upon an online forum for immigrants. There she read stories from others who had faced the same struggles. Many shared tips on job applications, interview techniques, and improving English skills. Inspired, she joined a local group that practiced conversational English every week. At first, she was nervous speaking in front of strangers, but she knew this was a necessary step. Every rejection email became a lesson. Every silence, a motivator to improve. She dedicated extra time to learning new vocabulary and rehearsing interview questions aloud. Slowly, she noticed progress, understanding more words, responding more confidently. Though the struggle was real, so was her determination. Emily started seeing challenges as stepping stones rather than obstacles. With persistence and hard work, she believed her dream was still within reach. Her journey was just beginning. Chapter 3. The First Interview. One morning, as Emily sipped her coffee and refreshed her inbox, she saw an unexpected email. Interview invitation, customer service assistant, the subject line read. Her heart pounded. After weeks of silence, she finally had a chance. Excited yet nervous, she clicked the email open. The interview was scheduled for Friday at a local retail store. It wasn't her dream job, but it was a start. She quickly searched online. How to prepare for a job interview in English. That afternoon, she practiced introducing herself in front of the mirror. Hello, my name is Emily. I recently moved to the US, and I'm excited to join your team. The words sounded rehearsed, but she hoped they would come naturally when the moment arrived. On the day of the interview, Emily carefully picked her outfit, simple but professional. She took a deep breath as she stepped into the store. The bright lights, shelves stacked with products, and employees greeting customers made her feel both excited and intimidated. A woman with short brown hair approached. Hi, you must be Emily. I'm Sarah, the manager. Come with me. Emily followed her to a small office in the back of the store. She tried to smile confidently, but her palms were sweaty. Sarah glanced at the resume on the desk. So, Emily, tell me about yourself. Emily had prepared for this. I'm from Brazil. I have experience in customer service, and I enjoy helping people. I'm excited to work here and improve my English. Sarah nodded. Great. Can you tell me about a time you helped a customer? Emily hesitated. The words were in her head, but forming full sentences under pressure was harder than she thought. She took a breath. Yes. In my last job, a customer was confused. I helped her find what she needed. She was happy. Sarah smiled. That's good. How comfortable are you speaking English with customers? Emily hesitated again, then answered honestly. I'm learning, but I practice every day. The interview lasted only 10 minutes. When it was over, Sarah shook her hand. Thank you, Emily. We'll let you know soon. As Emily stepped outside, she felt a mix of relief and doubt. Had she done enough? Now all she could do was wait. Chapter 4: The Waiting Game. The days after the interview felt longer than ever. Emily checked her email obsessively, hoping to see a response from the store. Every time a notification popped up on her phone, her heart raced, only to realize it was just another spam message or an update from a random website. She replayed the interview in her mind over and over. Did I say the right things? Was my English good enough? Did they like me? Doubts crept in, making it hard to focus on anything else. To distract herself, she continued applying for other jobs. She refined her resume, watched more English interview videos, and kept attending her language practice group. Every conversation, every new word learned, felt like a small victory. One evening, while scrolling through job postings, she received a phone call from an unknown number. Her hands trembled as she answered. Hello, is this Emily? Yes, this is Emily, she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Hi, Emily. This is Sarah from the store. I wanted to thank you for coming in. We were impressed with your enthusiasm, and we'd like to offer you the position. For a moment, Emily couldn't believe it. She had been so sure she had made mistakes, yet here was an opportunity, her first real job in America. Really? Thank you so much. she said, barely containing her excitement. "You'll start next Monday. Come in at 9 a.m. for training. Welcome to the team." As the call ended, Emily let out a deep breath. She did it. The fear, the doubt, the uncertainty, they had all been worth it. She had taken the first step toward building a new life. That night, she sat by her window, looking out at the city lights. This was only the beginning. Chapter 5. Starting the new job. Monday morning arrived, and Emily woke up earlier than usual. She had laid out her clothes the night before, simple but professional. Her stomach churned with excitement and nerves. This was it. The first day of her new life in the U.S. She arrived at the store 30 minutes early, her heart racing as she walked through the front doors. The bright lights, the colorful displays, and the buzz of customers moving around. It felt like everything was happening too fast. "Good morning, Emily. Welcome," Sarah greeted her with a warm smile. "Let me introduce you to your team." Emily shook hands with a few people, trying her best to remember their names. Everyone seemed kind, but the rapid-fire English made it hard to keep up. Still, she smiled and nodded, determined not to let her anxiety show. The day was full of new experiences. Emily learned how to use the register, how to greet customers, and how to help them find what they were looking for. Every time she spoke with a customer, she felt her confidence growing, though her accent was still noticeable. During her lunch break, Emily sat in the staff room, quietly eating her sandwich. A few colleagues were chatting nearby. She wanted to join in, but the fast conversation was difficult to follow. Instead, she focused on listening. "I'll get there," she thought. "Every day will be better." As the day went on, Emily had a few moments of doubt. She didn't always understand everything that was said, and there were times when she struggled to express herself. But each time she stumbled, she reminded herself of how far she had come. By the end of her shift, she felt a sense of accomplishment. The first day was over, and she had made it. There were still challenges ahead, but Emily was ready for them. "I can do this," she thought, as she walked home that evening, a sense of pride filling her chest. This is just the beginning. Chapter 6. Overcoming Challenges. The first few weeks at the store were full of ups and downs for Emily. Every morning, she woke up excited to go to work, but also nervous about the challenges she would face that day. She had learned a lot, but there were still moments when she felt out of place. One of the most difficult parts was understanding the customers. They came from all walks of life, and their accents varied greatly. Sometimes Emily had to ask them to repeat themselves several times. She felt embarrassed but was determined to improve. One day, a customer came in with a question about a product that Emily had never heard of. She tried to help, but she could feel her heart racing as she fumbled for the right words. The customer looked at her expectantly, and Emily could only manage a nervous smile. I'm sorry, I don't know, Emily said, her voice trembling. But I can ask someone else for you. The customer nodded, and Emily quickly called a colleague over. Thankfully, her coworker was able to assist the customer, and Emily felt a small sense of relief. But as the day went on, the doubt lingered. Am I good enough for this job? Will I ever be fluent? That night, Emily sat at her desk, reflecting on the day. Instead of focusing on the mistakes, she reminded herself of how much she had already accomplished. She had learned so much since arriving in the U.S. She had an apartment, a job, and a community of people around her. The next day, she made a promise to herself. Every time she struggled, she would use it as an opportunity to learn. And the more she practiced, the better she would get. When Emily went back to work the following day, she felt a little more confident. She kept practicing her English during her breaks, listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos. Every little improvement made a difference. As the weeks passed, Emily noticed that the conversations with customers became easier. She was still learning, but now she felt more comfortable navigating her new life. She had overcome the first few hurdles, but she knew there would be more challenges ahead, and she was ready for them. Chapter 7: Gaining Confidence. As Emily continued to work at the store, something started to change. She was no longer filled with dread every time she had to speak to a customer. Slowly, she gained more confidence in her English and in herself. One morning, a regular customer walked in. She had short blonde hair and always wore a big smile. Emily had helped her a few times before, and the customer recognized her right away. "Hi, how are you today?" the woman asked warmly. Emily smiled back. "I'm good, thank you. How can I help you?" The woman pointed to a shelf. "I'm looking for a birthday gift, something special for my sister. Do you have any suggestions?" Emily nodded. "Let me show you a few things," she said, walking toward the display. As they talked, Emily realized how much easier it was to understand the customer's requests. She was able to explain the products confidently, even recommending a few items she thought the woman would like. "This one looks perfect. You've got great taste," the woman said, smiling. Emily felt a rush of pride. As the woman walked away, Emily thought about how much she had changed. Just a few weeks ago, she had been terrified of speaking English. Now, she was able to have a full conversation with a customer without feeling anxious. Later that day, Sarah approached Emily with a compliment. "I noticed you've been doing great lately. Keep it up. Your English is really improving." Those words meant a lot to Emily. They were the confirmation she needed that her hard work was paying off. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Emily felt lighter, more at ease with her job and her language skills. She even found herself joining in on conversations with her coworkers during lunch. It wasn't perfect, but it was a huge step forward. As Emily walked home that night, she couldn't help but smile. "I'm doing this," she thought. "I'm really doing this." The road wasn't always easy, but with every conversation, every challenge, she was getting closer to her dream. And now she was ready for whatever came next. Chapter 8: Making New Friends. As the weeks turned into months, Emily began to feel more at home in the city. Her job at the store had become a routine, and while there were still challenges, she had gained enough confidence to face them head-on. But something was missing. She longed for more connections, people she could call friends. Sure, she had friendly co-workers, but they were all busy with their own lives, and Emily still felt a bit like an outsider. One Saturday, as she was leaving work, Sarah approached her with an invitation. "Hey, Emily, a few of us are going out for dinner tonight. You should come with us." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had been hoping for an opportunity like this, but she was nervous. Would she fit in? Would she be able to follow the conversation? But something inside her urged her to say yes. "I'd love to join." That evening, Emily met Sarah and a few other co-workers at a local restaurant. It was a casual place, full of laughter and conversation. As they sat down at the table, Emily felt her nerves start to fade. The group was warm and welcoming, and they made sure to include her in every conversation. The language barrier still existed, but Emily was surprised by how patient everyone was. They didn't mind if she needed a moment to find the right words. Instead, they encouraged her to keep talking, to keep trying. "Don't worry, Emily," one of the co-workers said. "We're all learning something new, too." As the night went on, Emily found herself laughing and sharing stories, even if her English wasn't perfect. The more she spoke, the more comfortable she became. By the end of the evening, she felt like she had made real connections. The following weeks were filled with more dinners, movie nights, and weekend trips. Emily was no longer alone in the city. She had found a group of people who understood her struggles and celebrated her successes. "This is what it's all about," Emily thought as she spent a Sunday afternoon with her new friends at the park. "I'm building a life here, a real life." She had come a long way from the nervous woman who first arrived in the U.S. Now, she was not just surviving, she was thriving. Chapter 9: Facing Setbacks. Emily's life in the U.S. had been a journey of progress, and for a while, it felt like everything was falling into place. But as with any journey, there were still bumps along the road. One afternoon, as Emily was working, her manager called her into the office. She could feel her heart race as she walked over, unsure of what to expect. "Emily, we need to talk about your performance," Sarah said with a serious tone. Emily's stomach dropped. Had she done something wrong? "You're doing well," Sarah continued. "But I've noticed that you're still struggling with some of the tasks, especially when it comes to handling customer complaints. We want you to succeed here, but we need to see more improvement." Emily nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. I understand, she said quietly. It was hard to hear this feedback. She had worked so hard, and despite her efforts, there were still areas where she wasn't meeting expectations. The doubt crept in again. Was she really cut out for this? That night, as Emily lay in bed, she thought about the conversation. She couldn't ignore the fact that there were things she still needed to work on. But instead of letting herself get discouraged, she made a decision. I'm not going to give up. I've come this far, and I'm not turning back now. The next day, Emily asked Sarah if she could spend more time shadowing a senior colleague who handled customer complaints with ease. Sarah agreed, and Emily started to take notes, watching carefully as her coworker diffused tense situations with grace. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but Emily began to improve. Each time a customer had a complaint, she remembered what she had learned and used those techniques. Slowly, she regained her confidence. After a few weeks, Emily was handling complaints more effectively. She had learned to stay calm, listen carefully, and respond politely. Sarah noticed the improvement and praised her for her efforts. I knew you could do it, Sarah said, smiling. You've come a long way. It wasn't a perfect journey, and setbacks were inevitable. But Emily knew now that the key to success was persistence. Every challenge was an opportunity to grow. Chapter 10: Making the Dream Come True. As the months passed, Emily's life in the U.S. continued to evolve. She had made steady progress at work, formed meaningful friendships, and become more comfortable with her new life. But there was still one thing that weighed on her heart: the feeling that she hadn't quite achieved her dream. The American dream. When Emily first arrived in the U.S., she had a vision of what her life would be. She imagined herself living independently, working a stable job, and maybe even owning her own home one day. But despite the strides she had made, that feeling of not quite reaching her goal remained. One evening, as she was walking home from work, Emily passed by a small house for sale. It wasn't anything fancy, just a modest little home, but something about it caught her attention. She stopped in front of the house, staring at the for sale sign. Maybe one day, she whispered to herself. A few weeks later, Emily was sitting at a cafe with Sarah, talking about her plans for the future. They discussed the possibility of buying a home, and Emily shared her dream. I want to have a place of my own, Emily said. It's been my dream since I got here. Sarah smiled warmly. You can do it, Emily. You've already come so far. Don't forget how much you've accomplished. That night, Emily sat down and began to make a list of her goals. Buying a house was at the top, but she knew there were steps she needed to take before that could happen. She started saving money, cutting back on unnecessary expenses, and looking into ways to improve her credit score. Every little step brought her closer to that dream. A year later, Emily walked into a real estate office with a smile on her face. She was ready to make her dream a reality. After a few months of hard work, Emily finally found a small house that felt like home. She signed the papers, and when she received the keys, she couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. "I did it," she thought, standing in front of her new home. The American dream wasn't just a distant idea anymore. It was her reality, and she had built it, one step at a time. Chapter 11. Looking Back, Moving Forward. On the day Emily moved into her new home, she stood in the empty living room, letting the moment sink in. The walls were bare, the rooms echoed with every small sound, but to her, it was perfect. It was hers. As she ran her fingers along the kitchen counter, memories of her journey flooded her mind. She remembered the fear of arriving in a new country, struggling to understand even the simplest conversations. The lonely nights when she questioned if she had made the right choice. The frustration of making mistakes at work, of feeling like she was constantly one step behind. But she also remembered the victories. The first time she ordered coffee in English without hesitation. The moment she got promoted. The friendships she had built. The confidence she had gained. Emily sat down on the floor, smiling to herself. "I made it," she whispered. That evening, she invited Sarah and a few close friends over to celebrate. They brought food, laughter, and warmth into the empty space. As they sat together, Sarah raised a glass. "To Emily," she said, "and to dreams that come true." Emily laughed, feeling a swell of gratitude. "To all of us," she replied, "for never giving up." That night, as she lay in bed in her new home, she realized something important. The dream wasn't just about reaching a goal. It was about the journey, the struggles, the lessons learned along the way. She had faced challenges, but she had also grown stronger because of them. She had once been a newcomer, uncertain and afraid. Now, she was someone who had built a life, step by step, with determination and resilience. And even though she had come so far, Emily knew this was only the beginning. There was still more to learn, more to achieve, more dreams to chase. She closed her eyes, feeling a deep sense of peace. Tomorrow, she would wake up in her own home, in the life she had built for herself, and she couldn't wait to see what came next. Chapter 12. A New Beginning. The morning light streamed through the windows of Emily's new home. She took a deep breath, stretching as she looked around. It still felt unreal. This place, this life, everything she had worked so hard for. She got up and made herself a cup of coffee, standing by the window as she watched the city wake up. This was just the beginning. Emily had learned so much on this journey, not just about living in a new country, but about herself. She had proven that no challenge was too big if she faced it with determination. She had learned to navigate a new culture, overcome fears, and chase her dreams. And now it was her turn to help others. That day, Emily decided to share her story. She started writing about her experiences, her struggles, her small victories, and the lessons she had learned. She wanted to inspire others who were going through the same journey. Because if she could do it, so could they. To everyone out there chasing their dreams, keep going. It won't always be easy, but every step you take brings you closer to your goal. Before we finish, let me ask you something. What's your biggest dream? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And if you enjoyed this journey with Emily, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Your support helps this channel grow and bring more stories to help you learn English in a fun and engaging way. Remember, every small step counts. Keep learning, keep growing, and never stop chasing your dreams. See you in the next story.